Shalom, 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 saints. I greet you in the name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. My name is Raah Yahchanan, also known as Pastor Johnny. And here on this Yahweh Shabbat day, we welcome you to our Bible study class here at the Multitude of Christ Ministry, where we seek to teach all nations of people how to find true salvation according to the Holy Scriptures. Well, today, sisters and brothers, we're going into part 2 of the NIL, name, image, and likeness, the destruction of a nation. NIL, the destruction of a nation, part 2. Well, get your seatbelts on, put your helmets on, get ready for another impactful lesson. We're going to get right into it today. Let's go ahead and open up with a scripture reading, opening prayer, and then a selection from our music ministry. Let's stand, face Jerusalem wherever you are. We have our scripture reading coming from Deuteronomy chapter 6. We'll start at verse 4. And it reads, Shema, Yasharah, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh Akkad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Thou shalt love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house and on thy gates. Hallelujah. Now repeat after me in the prayer of Yahweh given to us by Yahweh Shai, Yeshua, Yehoshua, whatever name you call him. Coming from Luke chapter 11, verse 2. Our Abba, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Yah. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so in earth. Give us day by day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, for we also forgive everyone that is indebted to us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. We pray in Yeshua's name. Hallelujah. 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 Sisters and brothers, you may be seated as we prepare for a song selection by our music ministry led by Lala Music. Khan?
All praise to the Most High Yah on his holy Shabbat. If he's made you new, I need you to sing this song with me when you learn it, all right? It's called Look What He's Done. Because I have been made new and I give all praise and glory to Yahweh. Hallelujah. Look at what what you've done to me. I see a change in me. You have really set me free. Now I live so righteously, yeah. Used to be a girl that didn't care about no one else. Had to make a choice, so I picked life over death. Had an attitude, if you tested me, it was sure enough going down. Didn't play no games, I wasn't messing around. But then I came into the truth, my life was changed, became brand new. Gave up my ways, I let him go, submitted to Yah, he took control. Look at what you've done to me. I see a change in me. You have really set me free. Now I live so righteously, yeah. Now I walk with a little blue swag in my step. Had to make a choice, so I picked life over death. The Father has changed my heart and all my ways. So I'm obedient to everything that he said. But then I came into the truth, my life was changed, became brand new. Gave up my ways, I let him go, submitted to Yah, he took control. Look at what you've done to me. I see a change in me. You have really set me free. Now I live so righteously, yeah. I'm made new because of you. The old me's gone. I've moved on. Woo! Hallelujah! Look at what you've done to me. I see a change in me. You really set me free. Now I live so righteously, yeah. Yeah. Hey. 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 I'm made new, yeah. Look what you've done. Hallelujah.
Shalom, saints. Well, let's get this Bible study started. We give all praise and glory to the Most High. Without him, we would not be here in this place. I want to start this Bible study lesson by making a clarifying statement. In part one, it was not said nor implied that playing sports is a sin. What was said is raising your children and even some adults today break the commandments of God through sports. What we learned in part one, amongst other things, was where we got these sports, these Olympic Games, where we got them from. And by the end of part one, I made the statement that if you allow your children to play sports of any kind, instruments of any kind, anything that they do and become good at, without laying the foundation of the law, statutes, and commandments, they will be compromised as early as middle school. Some of you are breaking the commandments of God with AAU and Pop Warner leagues. What I said was sports will lead you to break God's commandments. That's what I said. Are we clear? Because we know that working your job is not a sin, correct? But your job and the hours that you work your job can make you sin. Many of you have become so numb to breaking his commandments, and many of you don't want to conform to the commandments because you are a slave to your job. You love money and the riches and the bills you need to pay. You know, the necessity of life is just food and shelter. Water, food, shelter. Everything else you're wanting, you're trying to live with the Joneses, and you're trying to have this American dream that doesn't exist. It doesn't exist for you and me. So if your job can make you sin, sports, any activity and hobby can make you sin if you put it above the commandments of Yah. Is that not clear enough? All right. Let's start with Proverbs chapter 1. I want to make sure it is good that if you're having conversations with your children, that is great. But you have to know in your mind that your children are watching you. They're not listening really to what you're saying. They're watching what you do. And if they see you compromise the law, statute, commandments, they're going to compromise the law, statute, commandments. And if you bring it back up to them, they will rebuke you with your own actions. And that's what you do not want. It's for your life to not be a living example for your children, and they use you as the example of why they won't follow Yah. Our children should learn that they should be their own example, and they should have a relationship with the Most High themselves. You're not getting in off pastor's relationship. You're not getting in off of your parents' relationship. You have to develop a relationship and walk with the Most High yourself. That's the best lesson you can give your children. And I think some adults might need to remember that lesson because someone's always watching. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1 and let's start at verse 20 and read down to verse 23. And it says, "Wisdom crieth without. She uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying," if anybody's listening to wisdom, what is she saying? "How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge." Verse 23, "Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit upon you. I will make known my words unto you." Sisters and brothers, the word of the Most High Yah is coming to your ears through the multitude of Christ's ministry. We're reading scripture and verse, finding true salvation, delivering it to the people. Now it's upon you. I'm just using the NIL as an example of something going on, something that is majorly being spoken of, something that is supposed to be changing our collegiate kids' lives, but they should have already been paid. They should have already been compensated, right? And now it's just more of a motivation for our community. Listen, my thing about you talking to your children is sports is not the only way you can make money. Being an athlete and being a musician or a rapper, that is not the only way to success. Listen, do you think Black Wall Street was successful by just having musicians and athletes? No, they had everything from mayors to preachers to doctors to dentists to contractors to everything that you would need to run a city and a community. We had on our side of the track. But now our community is reduced to everyone's daughter and everyone's son wanting to be a musician and an athlete. Well, sisters and brothers, where are our police officers? Where are our firefighters? Where are our doctors? Where are our dentists? Where are our OBGYNs? Who's having our babies? Where's our doulas? Where is our community infrastructure? And it's not teaching it to the children. It's not going to be our future. Right? This lesson is to wake up our people. How are we a nation, a dysfunctional nation that doesn't have the things we need to run separately? The biggest joke our enemies could do is give us our true freedom and say, you go establish your nation and run your nation yourself. And you know what we would probably do? We run back under them and say, no, master, we want to stay up under your rule. That's probably what would happen. How long, you simple ones, will you just love simplicity? We're going to have to work to build this nation to be what we want it to be. So let's move on. So part one, in recap, we talked about the nation of people who were destroyed, their heritage they lost, the name not being remembered. We went over what the NIL really means as far as the world teaches it today. We talked about various types of masters and how they use different control methods to control the people. We also talked about the Greek influence, and we made very clear that you're not going to find the history of the Greeks ruling in Jerusalem and in Israel out in your 66 books. You need this apocrypha that your pastor keeps telling you you don't need to read. You need that to fulfill history and to fulfill the prophecy of Daniel. Did you hear what I said? So all your prophetic pastors and all your prophetic teachers out there are no prophets at all if they're not fulfilling and implementing Daniel's image of the statue in those kingdoms. They missing a whole piece, and that's the Greeks. And it's not in your 66 books. It's not. And they know where it is. They just don't want you to know the other things that are in the Apocrypha. That's all. They don't want you to know about the Sabbath and how serious Israelites took the Sabbath day, the real Sabbath day. All right. We went on and spoke about the Greeks' influence in sports, the sports and the things that the different sports that they made up. Like they created UFC. They were already doing that thousands of years ago. I think they call it pancration, right? They were already boxing and they were already running track and doing the Olympics. But they didn't have no clothes on. Weird thing, those Greeks, huh? And then number 5, biblical definition of name, the importance of getting and acquiring a name. See, we have Christian names, but we don't have names that mean anything. They're given this Christian names, but these are names passed down by our masters or our colonizers. These aren't the names that our foreparents passed down, right? We also talked about Jacob's name that he received from the Most High. He was given the name Yahshua or Israel. He was a surname given by the Most High Yah himself. And then finally, we talked about the curses up on this chosen nation of king priests, Israel, and how all the other heathens, which started with Canaan and Edom and the surrounding nations, but it then widened to the whole world, is in cahoots to keep the name of Israel, the remembrance of Israel, the history, the character that comes along with their God, their people, and their land. They're keeping it out of history books. They're not teaching it in the churches at all. Everyone is in cahoots in keeping the true image and true understanding of who the lost tribes are and the children are in the world today. So let's move on. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 4. 1 Timothy chapter 4. First Timothy chapter 4, we're going to start at verse 7. And it reads, "But refuse profane and old wives' fables, and exercise thyself rather unto godliness." Listen, I'm not saying be obese and not work out and not be in the best shape you can be in. But let's see what Timothy was told by Paul. "Exercise thyself rather in godliness. For bodily," verse 8, "bodily exercise profited little. But godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptance." Did y'all hear that? 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 to 9. Exercise profited, but exercise profited little. I know people that are in the best shape of their life and COVID took them out. I know people that are in the best shape of their life, but a heart failure took them out. Diabetes took them out. Seizures. Being in shape and working out and getting up all day, it profited little, right? You feel good about yourself when you look in the mirror and stuff, but you still will die. Exercise doesn't lead to longer life. Whenever your time to go is, you're gonna go. But one thing is a shameful thing that we see in the churches of the saints today is that you're more worried about physical exercise and watching your sports and watching your entertainment than picking up your Bible and reading and getting on your knees and praying to the Most High. Your exercise and you being in shape and fitting your jeans and wearing your shirts and your nice dresses and looking good and showing off yourself to other people, it profited little. But your godliness is in question. Your acceptance and being pleasing to the Most High is in question. Yeah, you're in shape and people around you want to be like you and look like you, but inside you're just leading them to the same destruction you're going into. Because your exercise and you being in shape profited little. I didn't say it profited nothing. I said it profited little. It is ill compared to the scriptures. So what else am I saying? Kids up to be an athlete, to get scholarships paid for, to be in the pros so you can be retired. Man, that's another what? Foolish fable. Profane wives' tales. We don't even got wives no more. We got a bunch of single moms being manipulated by coaches and teams and organizations for their children, selling their children out at young ages. That's why you see them fighting at AAU games and Pop Warner League games, because everybody thinks their kid should be the next Michael Jordan or the next athlete. They're looking and idolizing these people. It's idol worship. I showed you the pictures, man. I play sports at a very high level. I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's some good aspects of team sports. It's supposed to bring camaraderie and all these things, but really it breeds selfish, catty people, competitive people that are always in every aspect of their life trying to be number one. There's more negatives than positives. Let's look at this. Let's keep going. Sports.
As far back as the beginning of sports, it was related. Sports was related to military training. Sports, Olympic Games, to that nature was tied to military games. You would participate in these types of events to show who was the most stout, the most athletic, the strongest young men, and they would send these young men all over. For example, competition was used as a means to determine whether individuals were fit and useful for service. Team sports were used to train and to prove the capability to fight in the military and also to work together as a team. That's what you would see people doing: tug of war, building rafts, log carrying, wall climbing, building bridges, any kind of relay type competition, things that your family does. Close that, please. Anything you see your family doing at the reunions, all of those little games, they were created in a space where the most fit, the most useful young men would be drafted into the military during wartime. Yes, even today, if World War III does break out, they're going to go to the UFC, they're going to go to boxing, they're going to go to the Olympic Games, and they're going to go to our basketball, baseball, and football athletes, our hockey athletes, the best of the best, the most elite, and they are going to send them to war. That's what's going to happen, because these are our most fit men. Yeah, we have a military army, but the majority of our top athletes in America are involved in sports organizations. Our highest jumpers, our most aggressive, our most physical, the ones with the hands, our best grapplers, they are in sports organizations not really affiliated with the military. But the military has universities where you can go and get your collegiate type degrees. You can play in sports. They have football games every year, Army versus Navy. But these young men know that they're really dedicated to a military life. Let's move on. Initially, a single sprinting event, the Olympics gradually expanded to include several foot races run in the nude or in armor. You remember what we said in part one? If you start looking up Olympic Games in Greek, just say Greek Olympic Games or Olympic Games, Greek, or sports in Greece, you're going to see a lot of antiquity pictures of or ancient pictures of men in the nude. Right now, it's the most unfathomable thing, seeing men wrestling naked in the Olympics. Just imagine Israel Adesanya and John Jones in UFC fighting with no clothes on. What in the world? I mean, I could see the world coming to that one day, because everything is upside down. Evil's good and good's evil. But who wants to watch that? Nobody wants to watch that, but people that live an alternative lifestyle to get turned on by that type of thing. Let's go on. Boxing, wrestling, there go that word pancration, chariot races, long jump, javelin throw, and discus throw, right? These are all games that were gradually added after single sprinting. Baseball, closely related to the English rounders game and French la sole, and less clearly connected to cricket, became established in the urban Northeast United States, with the first rules being codified in the 1840s. So baseball came into America in the 1840s is when they codified the rules, the bases, and everything that governs what we know today. While American football was very popular in the Southeast, with baseball spreading to the South and American football spreading in the North after the Civil War. In the 1870s, the game split between the professionals and the amateurs. The professional game rapidly gained dominance and marked a shift in the focus from the player to the club. The rise of baseball also helped squeeze out other sports such as cricket, which is not that popular in America, which had been popular in Philadelphia prior to the rise of baseball. So that there used to be some cricket, and you might find it in some suburban areas somewhere in America, but you're not seeing it on TV as much on ESPN, right? American football and gridiron football more generally also has its origin in the English variants of the game. While the first set of intercollegiate football rules based directly on the rules of the Football Association in London. Football. The Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Raiders. The rules came first from the Football Association in London. However, Harvard chose to play a game based on the rules of rugby. So football first started with a London-style game, and then it really got popular with more of a rugby-style football game, right? So Walter Camp would then heavily modify this variant in the 1880s. So you hear that name Walter Camp around the Heisman time, right? When they're giving out a lot of awards, you hear the name Walter Camp. So what did he do? He modified the game of football in the 1880s to look more like what we know today. Also heavily influenced by the rules of Canadian football. So the Canadians had a style of football. And I've heard someone say that football can even be attested to the American Indians in some point, right? But it just wasn't a game that Israel participated in, is my point. So now we have all of these huge stadiums all throughout every major city and small towns, right? We got some places like in Kansas, in Norman, where like that team is it. You know what I mean? You pull up into that university or into that stadium, they seat more people than the pros in collegiate football. So now we got baseball, we got football stadiums everywhere. Baseball and football are the major two games. Basketball coming up third, right? And it's arguable and it's debatable. It's depending on what people like, right? But we got these coliseums and stadiums everywhere. Every Olympics, every 4 years, some new country is building an Olympic arena for the games to be in. Let's look at football more in depth. The NFL originated in 1869. During the early years, blacks were banned from the NFL due to segregation. Wait a second. We got Talib Khalib and his brother, and you got people dying at Pop Warner games. We got everybody holding their kids back so they be like 23, 25 years old by the time they graduate high school. Like nobody can tell, like, your son a grown man playing in this football game. Nobody talks about this stuff that is unethical and unmoral, but it happens because they've sold the game to us as if we super athletes, but what if we put our mind into inventions and into developing technology and like the brother made the water machine and cars that run on air, and like we are so much more than just dumbed down to rap and drill music and playing and dunking balls. We're playing games that we were not, it wasn't intended for us. It was given to us to destroy us. Hey, let them do it. They will never be in management. They will never rule the game, but we will benefit. So if a player gets a 7-year deal for $200 million, how much do you think the team is making off of that player? Come on now. Blacks were not, they were banned from playing football. It's like everything that the Europeans do, man, we think we got to do it. Who said we got to do it? What you should be doing and worried about is being obedient to your Most High God. But instead, you're trying to work, live, and do and participate in everything that you see the Europeans do. And the more they make it exclusive, the harder we fight to be a part of it. I don't understand it. We should have left ourselves segregated in our own communities with our own wealth where the money circulated amongst us. Our success circulated amongst us. We had our own baseball teams. We have our own football teams. Why we need to go play them? You remember what happened? It was just as Jim Crow as anything else. Let's continue. The first known black to play pro football was Charles Follis with the Shelby Athletic Club in 1902. When Follis retired from pro football in 1906, he was replaced the same year by Charles Baker, who played 2 seasons as a running back with the Akron Indians. In 1933, after 31 years of limited integration, the NFL banned black athletes from participating in league play. Wait a second. They gradually let them in for 30 years, then they banned them again. The NFL banned black athletes from participating in league play. When the NFL was reintegrated in 1946, black players made an immediate impact, leading their teams in most statistical categories. I went over that last part 1, all the records that we hold in every sport. Every sport. That's why they keep us out of sports, because we'll dominate in that sport. Right? We couldn't even play this football game now. We're more than 80% of the players in the league. Look at this. You remember how Texas is the last state to let their slaves know they was free? Look at this. The Washington Redskins, the last team to integrate when they signed running back Bobby Mitchell, who went to the Hall of Fame, went on to have a Hall of Fame career and was a front office executive for the Skins from 1969 to 2002. See, that's what they don't want them to do. They don't want them to be great players, go in the Hall of Fame, move up into the executive ranks, right? Because what we should be doing is being our brother's keeper, right? But if we got that Cain type spirit, we're going to chop the hand off and, hey, I made it. You get up here any way you can. And they just going to sit up there in the big office and look down on the rest of their people, right? So in the 70s, black players were among the NFL's top stars. By the 80s, black players began to make gains in positions from which they had been discouraged, particularly quarterback. Although this is in my lifetime that blacks have been allowed to be quarterbacks. This is since I've been born, right? This is in the 70s and 80s. We're talking about the top position, the lead captain of the team. They would even let us be that. Some of us still can't be that in the jobs that we have, let alone sports. Although blacks have excelled on the football field, they have not been welcomed in management positions in football. Today, there is only one black GM, which is Ozzie Newsome, which he took over the Baltimore Ravens in 2002. Art Shell became the first black head coach in the NFL in 1989 when he was hired by the Los Angeles Raiders. Seems like the Raiders, it's more history in the Raiders and them being proactive to help people of color than any other team. 10 years later, Ray Rhodes and his assistants with the Green Bay Packers. Can't get no more European than Green Bay. Ray Rhodes and his assistants with the Green Bay Packers became the first all-black coaching staff in the NFL. Who knew? Who knew? We can remember Ray Rhodes was a coach, but I don't remember them making a big deal out of an all-black coaching staff in the NFL. Was it just an experiment? Is Deion Sanders at HBCUs, is it just an experiment? They got a thing with doing experiments and then they just go away I remember when just letting a black player play the quarterback was an experiment. And then they would just alternate between him and the white kid back and forth, usually the coach's son, right? Look how recent this history is. We should still be fighting for equal rights. We still don't have equal human rights. Everybody think it was over with Martin Luther King and like everything was solved with integration. It wasn't solved. Tony Dungy is the first black coach to win a Super Bowl when he beat Lovie Smith, another black coach at the Chicago Bears. Mike Tomlin is the first coach to win 2 Super Bowls, right? He won the second Super Bowl in 2009. So we got Tony Dungy winning the first Super Bowl with the Bucks, I believe, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then we got Mike Tomlin winning the second Super Bowl in 2009. Do you know your history? You talking about name, image, and likeness. They've been tampering and been using our name, image, and likeness to capitalize and grow and send their kids to the best colleges and buy islands and go to vacations in places we could never go. They give us $10 and they take $1,000. Name, image, likeness. If Michael Jordan, if it costs you that much to buy Jordans and Michael Jordan owns a part of Nike with his brand, how much you think Nike is making off Jordan? We don't think to be the bosses and creators of nothing. Let's talk about NBA history, because all we want our kids to do is play sports. Let's talk about the basketball. While only 13% of the United States population is black, 13%? Yeah, that's because every immigrant that comes here from Ukraine, Mexico, anywhere, they are classified as white people. They come from Uganda, they're white. You know that? Every immigrant that comes here and gets classified as American citizen, they are labeled as white. That's why the white population keeps growing. I'm saying too much. Black athletes consist 80% of the players in the NBA. 80%. And they're still waiting on their great white hope, their new Dirk Nowitzki, so they can balance out the media coverage. But 80% of the players are black. 67% of NFL, but only 13. I don't even know that last stat. During the All-Star game in 1997, the NBA unveiled a list of 50 greatest players of all time to coincide with the league's 50th anniversary. Of this list, only 18 out of 50 are white people. $18. Now think of the players that have come to be great since 1997. The top 50 in 1997, only 18 was white. Now you got to add in Kobe, Kevin Garnett, Peyton, Duncan, LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Durant. You're missing a whole bunch of names that now that 18 is going to shrink. If you do the top 50 now, that 18 number is going to shrink. But you know what? It was a day when we couldn't play basketball either. So everything that was happening during that same time of segregation, we wasn't able to play baseball either. We weren't able to play basketball with the whites, football with the whites, baseball with the whites. Look at this baseball history. Honored internationally as the central color figure in baseball, Jackie Robinson took the first steps toward integrating. Why do we need to integrate? Why did we need to integrate? They made it like they had something for. See, they had the money. Money will make you turn on God. They're using sports, but it's really the money sports gives you. They're using music. It's really the music, the influence, the fame, the lifestyle. It makes you turn against your God. Jackie Robinson took the first steps toward integrating Major League Basketball when he signed a contract with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. This gigantic stride prepared the way for the legendary feats of Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. But Robinson had his share of problems. He began to speak up with pitchers, narrowly missed his head. So people were pitching at his head. Like back in the day of segregation, they was throwing balls at the black batter's head. They were trying to knock him out and hit him in the face. Fans shouted epithets and hate mail and death threats arrived frequently at Jackie Robinson's home. He fought denial of equal service in eating and sleeping quarters. So he's on the bus with all these Gentiles. They probably got him sitting in the back. They came to a hotel. He had to go through the back door. And when they went to a diner to eat, he had to get his food and sit on the picnic table out back. He couldn't even eat with the team. Sleeping quarters, eating, and whenever he faced discrimination. With Robinson on the roster, the Dodgers won the NL pennant 6 out of 10 years, including the 1955 World Series title. It's no doubt that we are very talented and very skilled. My issue with the NIL and the way that they use our name, image, and likeness, they have our single moms because there's no dads in the home. But even if there's dads in the home, we seem to be raising a community of children that can only be one-trick ponies. We're not really competing in the world of market and industry, right? In this free market society to be what we want to be. We only want to be this one type of entertainer. They still ain't letting us in hockey. But listen, we got some hockey history. Willie O'Ree made his debut as the first black player when he signed with the Quebec Aces, a minor league team affiliated with the Boston Bruins in 1956. So everything, our rise in sports came after segregation, after Jim Crow, right? There would not be another black hockey player for 25 more years. Listen, the first black player in hockey, 1956. There was not another black player for 25 years. You do the math. What's that, 1980, 25 years? Is that 1981? Something like that? Willie was called up by the Bruins in 1958, thus becoming the first black player in the National Hockey League. He played 2 games before being sent back down to the minors. The Bruins called Willie up again in 1961, where he played 43 games. Coming off the bench, he scored 4 goals and had 10 assists. He, as Jackie Robinson did, had to endure discrimination and racial slurs. O'Ree has said that taunting wasn't as bad in Canada as in the United States. In 1962, Willie was traded again, this time to the Los Angeles Kings, where he played 6 seasons and won scoring titles in 1964 and 1968. Listen to me. He won the scoring title in 1964 and 1968. Once they let him in, he was in. But he was the only one. Willie retired in 1974. Goodness gracious. But in 1978, at the age of 43, Willie came out of retirement to play for the San Diego Hawks. During a 70-game season, Willie scored 50 goals. This brother was unstoppable. This brother came from Canada. He's the only one for 20-something years they let in the league. And while he was in there, he was the Michael Jordan. He's Michael Jordan of hockey. And I bet he don't get no honor and no recognition. They don't want you to know he existed. Now, how about this brother? This is an American brother. In the late 70s, Val Moore, nicknamed Val, Edwin Curtis James, born at Ocala, Florida, James Acola. James didn't take up skating until he was a teenager in Long Island, New York. He began his career in Quebec. So this brother is born in Florida, grew up in New York. He had to go to Canada to get his start in hockey. Canada with the Junior Hockey League, and he would go on to become the first African American player in the National Hockey League. So Ori is the first black, but he's from Canada. See how they separate Israel? Like we ain't the same people. So he's in Canada. He's from America, right? He signed with the Buffalo Sabres in 1981. And in 1986, he became the first black player of any nationality to skate for the Toronto Maple Leafs. There we go. Canada giving love. Blacks on skates were still a rare sight. In the NHL's near 100-year history, listen, there have been just 70 black players in 100 years. In 2003, black Canadian Grant Furr was the first black hockey player to win the coveted Stanley Cup and to be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. As of September 2014, there are about 30 players of African descent either playing in the National Hockey League or for their affiliates. So there's like a movement in hockey, right? We dominate in basketball. Something happened in baseball to where it's all Islanders, same people, but not many African Americans in baseball, right? But football, basketball, total dominance, right? So let's move on. Let's see what happened. Alexander the Great. Let's go to the Apocrypha. Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 1. So that was your history lesson for today in sports. Sports aren't a sin, but your love of sports will make you sin, and it could cost you your opportunity to make it into the kingdom. It's going to cost a lot of people because they just so nonchalantly will skip a feast day, miss a Shabbat, got to go take my kid here, take my kid there, make up excuses. My job wouldn't let me off, but you never asked your job. It's the love of things more than Yah and his commandments that'll get you cut off. 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1, it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim. Where is Chittim? We're in Macedonia, so we got the land of Chittim right over here in Greece, right? So this is where Alexander the Great came from. Had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in the stead the first over Greece. Okay, so this Alexander the Great, like I said, you ain't gonna read this in your 66 books, but in the book of Daniel, he talks about this statue that Nebuchadnezzar had nightmares about, and he broke down this statue as kingdoms, and Babylon was the head. Then it went to Medo-Persia. Then Medo-Persia was going to be taken over by the Greeks, and the Greeks are going to be taken over by the Romans. And then the Romans was going to be broken apart and start forming these unions across the world, these European unions and conglomerates that are still European led. Y'all follow me? So this started with Alexander the Great dominating the Medes and the Persians. Let's go on down to verse 7. We're still in Maccabees. Drop down to verse 7. I'm trying to go somewhere here. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then he died. And his servants bare rule, everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So you can see this also in the book of Daniel, that Alexander died and his generals took over, right? They took over the 4 areas that Alexander had dominated. It went to his generals, right? And so it said it went to them and their sons. So we pick it up at verse 9. And after his death, they all put on crowns. I'm sorry, verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root. Listen, a wicked root. Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. Jacob, surnamed Israel, had a problem with a wicked root named Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, the son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage of Rome at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days, is that what I want? No, we want to drop down. Okay, so Antiochus was the rule over Greeks, and now we're going to see the terrain that he covered. Let's drop down to verse 41. Verse 41. And moreover, King Antiochus, who wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave their laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of King Antiochus. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. They changed it and did not keep the Sabbath day. Go on in verse 44. For the king has sent letters by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. So follow the laws of the Greeks, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple. So when did these burnt offerings and sacrifice offerings and drink offerings happen in Israel? They happened every day. Every morning and every evening, the high priest sent burnt offerings to the Most High, his commandment. The Greeks stopped all of that. And that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days. So they had to break the Sabbath and not keep the feast days. Verse 46, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. They were to set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh or pigs or pork and unclean beasts and other unclean beasts. Verse 48, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said they should die. Drop down to verse 46. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burned them with fire. So the Greeks, you don't know why you're following a false religion like Christianity and our people are scattered and lost. It's because the Greeks came in, took the laws and the scrolls and burnt them. Verse 57. And wheresoever was found with any of the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put to death. So anyone that was found with Bibles or scrolls or scriptures would be put to death. Verse 58. Thus did they, by their authority, by the Greeks' authority, right? By their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the city. So they was kicking down doors, door knocking, searching people's house, flipping them upside down, looking for menorahs or looking for scrolls or any kind of thing showing that they was keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Verse 59. Now the 5th and 20th day of the month, the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice unto the idol altar, which was upon the altar of Yah. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants upon their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. So these mothers knew. Listen, we get into the book of Matthew, we get into the Gospels when the Romans take over, and now everybody's talking about you don't have to be circumcised. But right before the Romans took over from the Greeks was killing mothers and their children who secretly tried to have their sons circumcised. So they were kicking in doors with new mothers. After 8 days, they would just know the doulas and who was having babies, and they would kick down the doors, and guess what? Check the son and he was circumcised. They did what? They hung the children. They said they hanged the infants about their necks and they killed the mothers. That's why they don't want you to know about the Greeks in your 66 books. Let's keep going. Verse 62. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. See, some of the Israelites just would not eat unclean beasts. Y'all talking about you can eat everything, but we talking about a few hundred years before the Romans took over and Christ walked on earth. Now you saying all we can do is pray and eat it. Stop being abominable. Israelites gave their life not to eat unclean food and to circumcise their children and to keep the holy convocations and feast days and Shabbats. And he said, howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved. We need to be fully resolved, sisters and brothers, and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they chose rather to die. How many of you you talk about, I die for the gospel? You need to be dying to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. There ain't no new gospel. These people were willing to die for keeping and obeying the commandment from God. And here go the controversy. If Jesus is the only God you've ever known, either Jesus is contradicting himself or somebody's lying. Because if Jesus was the only one we know since Genesis to Malachi, ain't he the one that said this? If Jesus is the Almighty God and we've never seen the Father, is he not the one that would have told them not to eat swine, to keep the Shabbat, to keep the feast days? See, someone's teaching an abominable doctrine. And Israel is buying it hook, line, and sinker. There's no accountability. Wherefore, they chose rather to die that they might not be defiled with meats and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. And there was very great wrath upon Israel. You know, when I was coming up through high school, I think they taught a little bit of Greek history. But when I got into college, there was a whole course on Greco-Roman history. Yeah, they had a little African-American history, but they didn't have world history about colored people at all. We're talking about a destroyed nation of people who are now being capitalized on by the heathen. They have dumbed us down in our communities and starved us so much and only given us one way of escape. Your kid is either going to be a drug addict, smoking dope on lean, and we're going to get some music out of him and make him record, and he either going to get killed by the streets, we going to kill him, right? But he'll never own his masters and he'll never live to see the royalties from all the work we're about to make him do in these 3 albums. We're going to make him do 3 albums, but we're going to record 500 songs. You hear me? They're going to record 500 songs. Lil Wayne talking about he be doing 50 songs in one night. What kind of slavery is that? Tupac killing himself to get out of them deals. Because they make you record all them songs and they like, nah, we don't like. They love these songs. Now we don't like that. That don't fit. And you just keep recording. Mind you, you got kids at home. You can't keep no wife. You can't keep no family. Because you got prostitutes in the studios with you. It's just everything is set up just to destroy us. Our name, even if it's a nickname, the image you portray, the likeness. If it's not according to the Most High Yah, sisters and brothers, we're not going to make it. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 23. All this stuff comes from the Greeks when it deal with sports. They took everything we was doing away, took all of our laws and our reverence away, and said, you either going to follow and do what we say or die. In America, it's almost like that. You don't get down like they say, you're going to lay down. They just not openly saying it. But we see our stars falling apart. They get to such a level, then something happened to them. They go off for therapy and they come back like robots. Like what's going on out here really? The price of fame, sisters and brothers, is not worth it. Rich and famous, it ain't worth it. Your name is more precious. What people say about you and think about you according to Most High Yah, that's what matters. Proverbs 23:17. Let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in fear of Yahweh all the day long. Sisters and brothers, we didn't play basketball until after segregation. We didn't play professional basketball until after segregation. You know what we was doing before segregation? Sharecropping. We didn't have no time to dribble no basketball. Michael Jordan's daddy and his grandparents, they were slaves. They was working at somebody's plantation. They survived just for him to make all this money and everybody wear his shoes. And that Negro don't care nothing about his people. You ain't heard him say nothing about nothing civil rights and nothing going on in the street. He does not care. But everyone, look, they jealous. Every basketball player want to be like Mike. Everybody want to wear his shoes. I used to be like that, man, until I found the truth. And then I'm looking at him. I'm looking at the stuff he say. I'm looking at his specials on TV. This Negro does not care about nothing but himself. And he would probably be even more famous if he was more humble. But ain't nothing humble about that dude. But we built him to be what he is. Off of his talent, now all of our kids, they got to be basketball players. We sticking basketball goals and basketballs in our kids' hands to see if they got the aptitude to play. Let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 9. He out here jealous. That's what that word is. Let not your heart be jealous of sinners, envy sinners. Don't be jealous of people that don't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Well, you know he don't. His lifestyle and everything he portrays say he don't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. You would think someone be rich like that, find the truth, see it going on YouTube, and then just change how he move. Keep the Shabbats and use his billions of dollars to make sure other Israelites can keep the Shabbat. That ain't what he do. That ain't what he do. Create a whole non-profit to donate money to people so they don't got to work. They can just worship the Most High Yah. That's how you know. Sirach chapter 9, verse 10 and 11. And it reads, forsake not an old, no, I'm sorry. That ain't what I want. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 11 and 12. Salakia. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11 and 12. Envy not the glory. Envy not the glory of a sinner, for thou knowest not what shall be his end. We see all the glory and all the fame and all the awards. Look at all these people. You got Kareem. You got Ali, you got Bill Russell, football player, what's his name, Jim Brown, and all of these dudes is professionals. You don't see that no more. All our athletes talking about Black Lives Matter. What? Our brothers used to have something to fight for. See, we didn't look up to them because of their sports. We looked up to them because of the stances they took on actions that was happening to their people, because they actually cared. This dude don't care. LeBron, maybe he may be a puppeteer. He seemed like he cared. He got something to say. He say it. But these brothers had something to say, and they was crucified. Anytime you got a big athlete up there to speak like Colin Kaepernick, you're going to be persecuted. But we're not supposed to envy the glory of a sinner because we don't know they end. Look at verse 12. Delight not in the thing that the ungodly have pleasure in. But remember, they shall not go unpunished unto the grave. So if sports is not a sin, but ungodly people play sports, and ungodly people are the majority of the athletes looked up to. How do I know that? Why you say that, Raah? Because they're not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. They still enslaved bonded Christianity where they could do everything and just ask God to forgive us. When's the last time you seen an athlete in your church? You people that still in Sunday church, where are your major athletes in the church? How long did Ray Lewis last in Jamal Bryant church before he got out of Dodge? He didn't want nothing to do. He didn't want to do with the pastor. But when everybody's up, you'll start to see movie stars coming to the church because they just trying to get in that light. I be trying to teach my wife about people trying to steal your light. People around you just trying to grab a part of that ruach that's on you. Sinners and saints gravitate to light. We are not supposed to take no glory, and we're not supposed to gravitate to people that's in sin. Let's go back to 1 Maccabees, where we had stopped off. We had stopped at verse 10. Now let's finish, because we got to look at something about how some of our athletes are used, right? Some of the people that we look up to in these Hall of Fames and everybody want to be like. Everybody want to be like Mike. You want to be like Mike, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan. We're in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, starting at verse 11. Now, this is the problem. This is why I read you about Alexander the Great, and then he had generals, and they took over Egypt, Syria, Judea, right, and Turkey, right, or Greece area. So his generals took over these areas and their children, right? So Ptolemy did some horrible things in Egypt, but you can't forget Antiochus leading over Syria and Judea, right? But let me show you what Israel is doing and why how am I tying this to sports and the NIL. Watch Israel, right? 1 Maccabees 1 and 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men. Write that in your notes. From Israel, wicked Israelites who persuaded many other Israelites, saying, since the Greeks have taken us over, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen. The heathen in this context is the Greeks. Let us go make a covenant with these people that like to wrestle and run track and box naked and have little boys and girls as adolescents as lovers. Let's go make a covenant with these people that are around about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. See, some of these athletes, they can't live without the heathens' money and without the fame and a Europeans' compliment. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jordan can't function without them letting him on golf courses that nobody else. He thrives, and it probably gives him some kind of virile strength that he can get in golf courses that no other black people can get on. He can get on boats and go on trips, and it probably made Steve Harvey and them feel great that Trump let them go to the penthouse floor of his tower. There's some people out there that'll sell us out for the glory to be accepted by the colonizer. Y'all hear me? So where we at? Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Like the Martin Luther Kings, let us integrate. Everybody that made us integrate, figured out we was better when we segregated. Because once that happened, so they did all the bombing and destruction of Black Wall Street to make us integrate. Because when we were segregated, we'd be just like Jewtown, Greek town, Mexican town. You know what I'm saying? We had our own across the track in every city. They had to destroy that thing. Verse 13. Then some of these same wicked Israelites, after convincing other Israelites to make a covenant with the heathen, then certain of the people were so forward. They were so full of themselves. We get to go to Rolling Louds, and we get to go on all the concerts, and everybody just loves our music. They take the love of the music for the love of them, right? You could get self-absorbed in entertainment and sports to where you'll start saying, certain of them went and so forward herein, it says that they went to King Antiochus himself. They went to Trump. They went to the president themselves, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. They're going to go to the colonizer and say, man, I'll shoot down dead any nigger to try to lead a plantation. We got gatekeepers. Anybody that won't pump out the music that you say, we'll kill them. We'll kill them for you. You're going to have to pay us. So you got to make it look good. So you got to give us the advance money. We're going to get them to do all the music with a percentage of the money. This is how it worked. They cut the deal with the Sonys and the big boys. They get the advancement. Now they sign all these artists. They put them in there and make the music. They pump the music out through radio stations now that they control, media streams that they control. And as soon as that artist get out of line and try to be an individual and don't toe the line, they kill them and cash in on the insurance and send it back up to master. They used the Hank Aaron's. They used the Jim Browns. They wanted to use Cassius Clay, but he changed his name to Muhammad. That Negro got out of line. They using the Bill Russells and everybody else. The Deions, man, you can't tell me. They use people like that. They got to find a Pied Piper that simple people will follow. They make it look good, but it ain't no good for nobody. I'm sure everybody thought gentrifying and seeing the plans, they're going to redevelop our community in Chicago and Dallas and in Houston and LA. They're going to revitalize. Revitalization means the removal of the people that's there. Now let's read verse 14. What else did they do? Man, tie this to the lesson already, Raah. Okay, verse 14. Whereupon these wicked Israelites also built a place of exercise in Jerusalem, according to the custom of the Greeks. We get all this sports stuff from the Greeks, right? From the Europeans. We weren't allowed to play these things before segregation. Before integration, excuse me. I already tied sports all the way back to the Greeks. I tied boxing. I tied wrestling. I tied Olympic sports. What else is it that we do? And I'm sure I could tie a lot of other things to the Greeks and the Romans, right? So we tie all of this stuff back together, right? And now, who is the heathen at this point? It's the same heathen that's here today. It's just their descendants. And these same people are going all over the world trying to make everybody conform and dress and do away with all of their customs and laws to come up under one banner. You're either white or black, you're either rich or poor, and you're either of this nation or not. You got people coming from other nations with their own culture, and they putting that to the back burner just to be Americans. Just selling them a better life. The heck, I've been here my whole life. I don't see it. That's right. Oh, it could be worse where they come from. Who's causing the problem where they came from? The same people that's ushering them into America is the same ones going back where they came from, gentrifying and taking over their property. Duh. It's just gentrifying on a worldwide scale. How about Colin Kaepernick? Let's move on. Kaepernick comparing the scrutiny of the players to slavery. What they don't want you to understand is what's being established is a power dynamic. Kaepernick says while walking through a staged NFL practice field, before they put you on the field, teams poke, prod, and examine you, searching for any defect that might affect your performance. So Colin Kaepernick, this is way after he kneeled for police violence. They tried to make it unpatriotic, and they just went left with it. He was saying, stop killing young black men for no reason. So he gets an opportunity to work out for NFL teams. He sends them one place. He goes to another stadium to work out, and none of the scouts was there. It wasn't nothing there but media. And he says, before they put you on the field, teams poke, prod, examine, and search you for defects that might affect your performance. He is comparing NFL combines and the way sports teams analyze you to slave auctions and the slave trade. It goes on to say 68% of NFL players are black. The majority of the men examining, judging, and ultimately benefiting from the physical labor are white. The players are stripped down to the bare minimum and have their muscular bodies picked and prodded for size and strength, all with the idea that they could judge a player's strength and endurance for financial gain. Enslaved black people were virtually naked and examined before they were bought. Potential buyers would look at them and try to determine how useful that person would be based on age, size, and health. With the NFL Combine, it's about more than the athlete's strength, speed, agility, and wingspan. The evaluators try to project the player's longevity. The more they can get out of the prospect, the better. Well, enslaved blacks' worth was similarly judged by what the plantation owners believed they could get out of the enslaved long term. So the same way they judge, I've been to All-American game. They judge your hands, they judge your wingspan, they make you broad jump, they make you size straddle and all of that. They make you run the 40-yard dash, they make you jump and get your vertical. It's the same thing as the slaves march into the slave auction. These young black men, majority of the black men in baseball, basketball, and football are marched butt naked or half naked to go through all of these drills the same way the plantation owners would come in and evaluate them. So 5 ways that the combine or the evaluation process of these sports is like the slave auction. They examine your body. They publicly display you for everyone who wants to see. It's on national TV now. It used to be mandatory in slavery. Now young colored men willingly participate in auctions. They don't only do this at combine, they do this at every All-American game. They evaluate your measurables at every All-American game, all the way down to high school and all of these elite prep things, these camps you send your kid to. They do the same thing and evaluate your kid. There's money exchange, just like the slave auction, and the benefactors of these All-American games and this combine are always white. There's no black owner, majority owner of any team, of any record label. I didn't say there wasn't minority partners. There's no majority benefactors. Look down here at the bottom. Black bodies is paying for public consumption. Black bodies in pain for public, black bodies being inflicting pain on black bodies for public consumption have been an American national spectacle for centuries. Enslaved blacks were chattel or cattle designed for the specific purpose of providing labor and or money for the whites who purchased them. It was big business. The NFL is bigger business when it comes to money. So the league justifies the multiple day event by calling the process part of an investment because of the contracts players could potentially sign. This is an investment, just like the slave trade. Before I purchase you, I need to evaluate your measurables. Then there's an auction by all teams called the draft to see which Negro or which player they're going to get. Now, this is Colin Kaepernick that brought about this comparison when he was at that tryout wearing this outfit. We're just public consumption. The NIL is just a way to exchange money for the name, image, and likeness of athletes in college. They do the same thing and evaluate you when you're interviewing for a job. They evaluate your longevity and your ability to do the job. Got two people here able to do the job, one white, one black. Who's going to get the job? You could be better, and then the white person say you got it because of affirmative action. Why can't it be because I'm just good at math and I'm good at what I do? I'm just as good as you and more qualified. You know what I'm saying? So, image. Let's wrap this lesson up with image and likeness. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. A lot of history, a lot of information. What am I saying? NIL is bad? Nope. But you think them young brothers and sisters going to take that money and do anything for Yah? No. They're going to destroy themselves with all that money. They haven't been bred and raised to handle that kind of money. So now that they got that money closer to the family, now the family is going to push these kids even more to get into the slave market of athletics. That's all that's going to happen. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. It says, and Yah said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And Yah created mankind in his image. In the image of Yah created he him, male and female created he them. Let's look at it in 2nd Ezra in the Apocrypha chapter 6. So the Most High Yah created mankind. Okay. Not just Adam and Eve, he created mankind. So now let's go to 2nd Ezra 6, verse 54. Follow me now. Let's go, saints. 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest, Lord of all thy creatures, Of him come we all, and the people whom and the people also whom thou hast chosen. So out of all of humanity, he chose Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's seed line. That's the chosen people, the 12 tribes of Israel. Verse 55. All this have I spoken before thee, O Yah, because thou madest the world for the chosen sake, for our sake. Verse 56. As for the other people, the other nations of people, who've tried to make Israel of name and reputation no more, that people no more know about Israel, those other nations, those other people, which also come from Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. And now, Yah, behold, these heathens, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have become to be lords over us and to devour us. You heard what the Greeks did to the sisters trying to just circumcise their babies, to the people just trying to keep the Shabbat, just trying to keep the feast days. They killed them. All the dietary law, they killed the Israelites. Babylon, not so much. Medo-Persia, not so much. But man, those southern Mediterranean, man, when them Greeks and Romans, and ever since, they have killed the people of the Most High Yah just for trying to be obedient. That's why those other nations, and he said, you are nothing. They read this. That's why they took the Apocrypha out of it. So next time you want to know why the Apocrypha was taken out, this is why the Apocrypha was taken out. It's talking about the Greeks and the Romans and the Medo-Persian and the Canaanites and everybody that's not the chosen seed of Israel is being spoken of as nothing in the scriptures. Let's go, verse 58. But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover are given into their hands. Whose hands are we in right now today in 2022? We're in the Europeans' hands that took over America. That's whose hands we're in. An extension of Rome by way of England. Because the English ran out the French, ran out the Spanish, ran the Spanish back down south, ran the French back out, and who's the masters that was left? The English Northern Europeans, right? Verse 59, if the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? That's the same question we read in the beginning. How long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? So we're going to be in the hands of our oppressors until we stop being simple. Now our movie stars, our athletes, like all the other nations want to be just like us, but they don't want to be us. So image is the resemblance or representative figure as an idol. Grammys, Heisman, MVPs, Oscars. They want to be like the people they have subjugated. Image, Hall of Fame. First Super Bowl, black quarterback. They're going to use the best out of the slave pool to bring the rest into subjugation. All they're doing now is creating ways to make money, and they're going to use the handsome, the most beautiful of us to bring in the rest. The best athletes, the Beyoncés, the best singers. Look at this definition of image. A physical likeness The physical likeness of the chosen people of Yah. I want the muscles. I want the looks. Hell, we trying to be Egyptian. Instead of just wearing our afros, we got to put on suits instead of wearing our dashikis. We don't want to look like us. We want to look like what they want us to look like to make them feel comfortable. Although silently they pretend to be us, put on the black face, start talking jive talk, start dapping, brother. They start using all of our slang terminology. Say it ain't so. A physical likeness or representation of a person, animal, or thing, photographed, painted, sculptured, or otherwise made visible. That's an image. They want to be like our Hank Aaron's and Jackie Robinsons. Israel's name is at the top of everything that we put our hands to. That's why they put their hands on us and don't want us to be great. That's why they attack the greatness of us in our simplicity, because they know we're separated from God at the time they kill us. See, they're indirectly doing the work of Satan and the work of the devil. And you fall right into it because you question your obedience instead of being obedient. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? Your name, your image, your likeness. The name, once you say somebody's name, Michael Jordan, oh, he's great. He's the greatest of all time. GOAT, Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron. Now you got to put Ori in there. You got to put that hockey player name in there. You got to put some. We're great in everything that we do, but we're astonished and we're a byword at the same time. They glorify and magnify our name, but they do not want to be us. As great as Hank Aaron was and Jackie Robinson, the white people knew it was a difference when they got to go through the front door and these brothers had to go through the back door. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. We're just looking at the destruction of a nation. They just don't use the NIL. They use the NIL in acting. You got to go through the Writers Guild. You got to go through all of these hoops. You got to go through the couches. They still poking and prodding, and they trying to see through little shows who that they can use longevity. They use the heck out of Will Smith. Has his usefulness gone out, or are they supposed to use him in another way? Did Kobe get too big for his britches? He didn't want to stay on script? Do they get rid of you when you no longer make the money or want to, you know what I'm saying? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, watch this, verse 23 and 24. It reads, for Yah created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil, envy not the sinner, envy not the glory of sinners. Through the envy of the devil's children, that's who they want to bring up. They only going to bring up the ones that's going to toe the line for the devil. You're not going to get up to the highest Hall of America and Hall of Fames and be talking about Yahweh and we got to keep the feast and I can't go to this because it's a Shabbat. And they're not going to listen to that. I don't eat this and I don't eat that. They want people to just go, skin a hog, kill a hog. Let's eat some possum. I'll eat anything. I'll try anything once. They want that type of Negro. They don't want the one that walks in the glory of Yah. They want the one that wants to be like them. That's the whole test when you get around Europeans. They're really trying to test to see where you're at and how far they can go. Who towing the line and what type of Negro is this? As soon as they find out you're about some intelligence, they moving on. Nevertheless, through the envy of the devil came death into the world. It ain't eating no darn apple. It's the jealousy of what somebody tells you can't have, and you try to ruin the world by trying to get it. I'm going to destroy everybody in my path trying to get what they say I can't have. And they that do hold of his side doth find death. It is the death. Those that take hold to the devil and his ways find death. How about our wrestlers? Y'all don't know who that is? That's The Rock's daddy. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson, that's his daddy. These guys go on to be in The Strongest Man and Mr. Olympias. We dominate in everything that we get into, even if it's just showing off our body. Dance, singing, jumping, running, boxing, physically, there's no one more dominant than a melanated person, and there's no more dominant than an American melanated person. Because the world is just emulating us. They're imitating us. Whatever we do, they do. Monkey see, monkey do. Let's go to Sirach 17. Ecclesiasticus chapter 17. We're going to start at verse 1. So he made us in his image, in his likeness. We were supposed to be immortal, like his eternity, but we gave that up by taking hold and being jealous of what the devil said we couldn't have or shouldn't do. Ain't that like us? You tell us what we can't do and we going to do it to our detriment. Ecclesiasticus 17 verse 1. Yah created man of the earth and turned him into it again. Dust thou art, dust thou return. He gave them few days and a short time and power also over the things therein. He endued them with strength by themselves. He endued them with strength by themselves and made them according to his image. Power. And put the fear of man upon all flesh, and gave him dominion over beast and fowl. They received the use of the 5 operations of Yah. How many of you know about the operations of Yah that he initially gave mankind? Well, let's look at it. 5 operations of Yah that he gave mankind. And in the 6th place, he imparted them understanding. And in the 7th, speech, interpretation of cognations thereof. He also gave them counsel, a tongue, and eyes, and ears, and a heart gave he them to understand. Withal, he filled them with the knowledge of understanding and showed them good and evil. Wait a second. We were created to be immortal. This is more in depth than Genesis. He's teaching exactly what Adam and Eve knew to do. Eat that, don't eat that. Good, evil. Doest thou comprehendo? Yeah, I comprehendo, because he gave you also eyes to help you understand what you're seeing, ears to understand what you're hearing. Look, these are things they attribute to science, but the Most High gave us this for understanding. Science is just the observation using 5 senses. These are the 5 operations from Yah. Who gave us science then? Yah. Speech, interpretation of cognations thereof, counsel, tongue, eyes, ears, heart. He gave us to understand. This is how he made us in his image. The best rappers, the best singer and seller of music, best entertainer of all time. Israel. Why are you hated and loved? They hate you. They love making money off of you, dead or alive. Y'all better wake up, what I'm telling you. Your name, image, and likeness is going to be profitable for them, dead or alive. 2 Ezra chapter 8. 2 Ezra chapter 8. Second Ezra chapter 8. We're going to read verse 44 and 45. Even so perished man also, which is formed with thy hands, and is called thine own image, because thou art like unto him. Who's like unto man? The Most High Yah. Or we're like him. He's like, either way, we're made in his image. Come on now. We want to make money off of the true chosen people of the Most High Yah. Because thou art like unto him, for whose sake thou hast made all things, and likened him unto the husbandman's seed. Be not wroth with us, but spare thy people, and have mercy upon thine own inheritance, for thou art merciful unto thy creature. Who's thy creature? The same people that are being exploited for name, image, and likeness in every industry, not just college sports, in every industry on every level. If they make money off of you, it don't matter if you're in school. If you come to find out you can do math better than any college man, they're going to put you on TV and they're going to whisk you away. They're going to poke and pry on you like they used to do us in the zoos. Now your zoo is social media and TV. But they used to come poke and pry us in cages at zoos. This is the New York City Zoo. This ain't New York City Zoo. They're making that dude stand there and hold that monkey like he's a animal. Now y'all can say, Raah, some of that stuff you be saying is discriminatory and racist. Who is that in the cage? Who's that out of the cage? If you're a European or a white person and you want to deal with me, we got to deal with real fact, and you got to be able to swallow and handle it just like I do. We got to be adults when we talk. You're not going to talk to me in riddles like it didn't happen. You didn't do it, but somebody benefited and somebody's still profiting from someone being in a cage, whether it's the UFC, a boxing ring, a football stadium, and somebody's benefiting from being out. You think because you took the person and gave them a salary, they still not a slave. And you don't have to be emotionally distraught. Look at that. Walking through zoos. Look who's outside of the cage. This is all in Europe. Starting in Europe, they bring it to America. Bring it into Barnum and Bailey. See, Barnum and Bailey first had the people in cages. Then they took them out of the cages and let them start doing tricks and show their acrobatics and name, image, likeness. You either coming willingly or you coming by force. And we came here by force, and now we're willingly being the kids in the cage. We're willingly now for a salary, and they taking you from what you think is a ghetto. You with your people. You get to go to the suburbs and live around them. They don't accept you. They allow you to live around them because they know that you're a part of the puzzle that keeps the majority of your people in cages. You just the one that got out the cage. Your name, image, and likeness got you out of your gentrified community to go into a suburban area, and they're going to leave there once they move your people out of the gentrified area, and they're going to move where you was. And they're going to leave you out in the middle of nowhere with no resources. In the same blighted areas and boarded up buildings and streets that you see, it's going to be all flourishing corporation. because they know the land and the proximity to downtowns and the resources is better, because the more people move into the cities, the more traffic gets, and your 20-minute drive from the suburbs is now 2 hours. So now we're gonna move all the people that are around these downtown areas to these suburban areas. They thinking they're coming up in their Section 8 homes. Oh, it's 25 square foot. Everybody barbecuing and showing out, and all the white people steadily leaving, and you're not seeing all the for sale signs. And next thing you know, you can't afford there. So where you gonna leave? Where you gonna live? Once the value of the home depreciates because all the Europeans leave, where you gonna go? Let's get into likeness. Because now they don't just want to resemble you, they want your mannerisms. They want, some of the children now actually want to look like you. I want your lips, but I don't want to be you. I want your butt, but I don't want to be you. I want your breasts and I want your curves, but I don't want to be you. I want to wear your cornrows, but I don't want to be you. I want to put on the afro, but I don't really want that texture of hair. But I just think you're so beautiful, but I don't want to be you. I want to be similar, but your character, they still got you in a cage like a monkey. Even though some of the people out of the cage are beautiful. I don't want to be you because you used to be in a cage. We brought you over here on slave ships, and even if we didn't bring you on slave ships, we came in and conquered you with the gun and with the fire water. We just want to imitate you now. I want to put on dashiki. I want to marry me some African women. I want to have me some mixed children that might come out with some afro hair. We're already making money on your name, image, and likeness. We might as well take everything from you. They want a gangbang. Who you think at Little Baby concert? Who you think at Da Baby concert? Listen to these names. Lil Bow Wow's concerts. Lil Boosie's concerts. Young black teenagers, young white European teenagers. Want to dress like Cardi B, want bodies like Cardi B. All the young men want to be cool and hip. See, right now it's a dilemma because in the white community, they want to either be hip hop and cool, or they're like 180 degrees stone cold Aryan Brotherhood racist. And the very small few in the middle you can even deal with. You got people trying to imitate you, people trying to kill you, or people that's like indifferent. Look at this girl, bamboo earrings. They done figured out how to braid their hair. What are they going to say in 30 or 50 years? They created all of this. They took in everything, name, image, and likeness from the chosen people. You are not left with a God. You're not left with a culture. You're not left with a language. You're not left with commandments. You're not left with land. You're not left with nothing if they are able to tell the future and their children tell the future. And if they're able to tell the history in 20 to 50 years, they started hip hop. They started this, that, and the third. Look at this. When you want to talk about likeness and the mannerism that Yah gave us, go to Genesis 5. We're almost done. Genesis chapter 5. Look, they all getting BBLs. How you say you're not trying to sell sex if you turn around and show your butt to people? They already took your God. They gave you a white Jesus. They gave you the Trinity, which is polytheism. They took your Sabbath day and changed it to Sunday. They took your feast days and gave you holidays. Now they got you involved in their sports and their games, which distracts you from learning and getting the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding from the Most High Yah. Your name, your image, and your likeness is being traded on Wall Street and stock exchange. You just got to look it up. You are the commodity all around the world. Genesis 5:1. So Cain kills Abel. Adam and Eve don't have no righteous children living upon the earth. Time goes by. Genesis 5:1. We pick it up. The story, it says, this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that Yah created man, in the likeness of Yah made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, meaning mankind, in the day when they were created. And Adam, the first man, lived 130 years, and then he begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. Y'all hear me? And he called his name Seth. Then we drop down to verse what we want? We want Enos. Drop down to verse 6, and it says, and Seth lived 105 years and begot Enos. And Seth lived after he begot Enos 807 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begot Canaan. So the big thing about Enos is that's when man began to call upon the name of Yah. Go back up to chapter 4, verse 26. And it says, and to Seth, the same Seth we just read about, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. This is Genesis 4:26. Then began men to call upon the name of Yah. So when you talk about name, image, likeness, Cain was not made in the name, image, likeness of Adam and Yah. Abel was, but Cain killed Abel. So it wasn't until 100 and some odd years later that Adam had another son. His name was Seth. Seth had a son named Enos. Genesis 4:26. And at this time, men began to call upon the name of Yah, his character, what he has done, what he warned Adam and Eve about, right? The stories and the information started to be passed down again, and men began to walk with Yah again. That's what we had to have happen here, because right now there's an enemy taking every name, image, and likeness of anything we create and do. They take credit of the patents, the trademarks. They're taking over companies. You can start BET, but you ain't gonna own BET for long. You start something with your own money. Soul Train. Everybody gonna have to sell out eventually, because they're gonna keep applying the pressure. Especially when you start to influence their children to want to look and be like you. Name, image, and likeness means more. Check this out. Now, not only are they doing it like this, but let's go back in antiquity. Let's go back to the Apocrypha. First Maccabees chapter 3. I believe this is our last passage here. First Maccabees chapter 3. We're going to read verse 35 on down. I didn't want to read that whole thing, did I? No way. Let's just get to the point. First Maccabees chapter 3, and we're going to get to the point. We're going to read, this is a good story here. Oh, I did want to read. We're not going to read it, though. Let's go to verse 48. I want you to put in your notes, 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 35 to verse 60. But for the second time, we are not going to read this whole thing. But basically, it talks about how the children of Israel stood up for themselves to fight back. And this is what happened. Verse 48. This is what the Greeks did. They laid open the books of law, right? The same ones we read that they was burning. When they opened them and saw the images on them that they were colored people, the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of those images to look white. So when the Greeks came in and seen all the dark pictures of antiquity, so this is later on in life, this is later iconoclasm. But at the same time, they opened up the scrolls and they seen pictures of Daniel, and they seen pictures of David and Noah, and Adam was all of color. Iconoclasm is the action of attacking or assertively rejecting cherished beliefs and institutions or established values and practices. It goes on to say the rejection or destruction of religious images as heretical, the doctrine of iconoclasts. So when a nation like the Greeks came into Jerusalem, Antiochus writes the letter, everybody got to follow the Hellenist Greek laws and rules and commandments. They came in and looked at the scrolls and images and looked on the walls, and that's when they started trying to white out the image and likeness of the true children of Yah, who was made in his express image. The destruction of a nation has been a calculating plan by the heathen to remove all remembrance, semblance, hieroglyphs, statues, anything that can help the people find out who they are has been removed by all nations on the world, on this earth. So, images, they done more than just change paintings. So they stole the religion, they stole the lands and city, they stole our music, our riches, our history, our genealogy. There's actual people that are converted religious Jews. They're not the original bloodline of Judah, the Yahudi. They stole our minds. They stole and monopolized and capitalized off of our strength. That's what this lesson is about. There is a day. The day does exist. And the days are the ones that benefit off of the talents of the chosen people. So name, image, and likeness, NIL, it is not new. It does not only apply to college sports. It is, however, the way that the heathen capitalized on a destroyed nation, the kingdom of priests, the surname of Yah, the ones created in the image and the likeness. There was a people given the name. They were made in the eternal image to be immortal. But once they disobeyed, and as long as you keep on disobeying, we are going to continue to be under the hand and rulership of the heathen. And with that, sisters and brothers, that is the end of part 2, NIL, the destruction of a nation. I thank all those that have joined us. I pray you have learned and have some information that you can go and study and expound on with your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding given to only you by the Most High Yah. Once you have done that, sisters and brothers, be content on where the Most High Yah has led you. Let's close out in Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 17. And the scripture reads, verse 24, but unto them that repent, He granted them return and comforted those that failed in patience. Return unto Yah and forsake thy sins. Make thy prayer before his face and offend less. Turn again to the Most High Yah and turn from iniquity, for he will lead thee out of darkness into the light of health, and hate thou abomination vehemently. Sisters and brothers, let's stand, let's face Jerusalem as we close out. We're going to come from the book of Numbers, chapter 6. I would ask you just to repeat after me as we close this Bible study lesson out. Numbers chapter 6, we'll start at verse 22. And Yah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying on this wise, Ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yah bless thee and keep thee. Yah make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name Yah upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Yah Barak Yeshua. Yah Barak Yasharal. Yah Barak Atham. Hallelujah. 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 Sisters and brothers, that is our lesson for today. I thank all those that were in attendance. We are at the new moon time, where over the next few days, we're looking for the sighting of the first sliver of light, which begins our month. So I'm expecting it to be Saturday or Sunday evening. Please be attentive wherever you are. Maybe 8:50 to 9:15. Be looking for the new moon sighting. May Yah bless you and keep you till we see each other again. Yah bless.